Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. How was your Christmas? Was it Christmassy? Did you eat ham? Did you eat turkey? Did you eat stuffing? What about chestnuts? Did you have any chestnuts? Were they roasted on an open fire? I'll bet you they weren't. I'll bet you did not have chestnuts roasted on an open fire. In fact, I have never had a chestnut roasted on an open fire, and yesterday was the first time I ever had a chestnut on Christmas, period. But it was wrapped in bacon, and it had like sweet and sour sauce on, which was sugar and ketchup. It's pretty good, though, on a little toothpick, you know? So, I was thinking about this because, you know, as I have mentioned a million times on this channel, when you have 17 siblings, step siblings and whatever, you would think that would be, oh man, you probably got birthday wishes from, or Christmas wishes from everybody, you know? But no, as you grow older, you know, and there's rifts that form in families and divorce after divorce, eventually, you know, you can try as much as you want to keep it all together, but it breaks apart. It just breaks apart. The full siblings go with the full siblings. The step siblings go with the step siblings. The half siblings kind of, you know, my mom and your mom are enemies. So, you know, it's not stated exactly like that, but things just kind of, nature sorts itself out, you know. It'd be interesting to see, you know, in the Brady Bunch years, if you were to fast forward and go, well, what happened to them as adults? And in my situation, having come from a Brady Bunch, you would probably see that in their 50s and 60s, the boys met with each other and had a strong bond, stronger bond than the girls. And the girls would, they kind of drift apart. Yeah, we were raised as a family, but, you know, your mom wasn't really our mom. She was our stepmom. We liked her, you know, we love her even. But it's not really ours, you know. There are formative years, sure, and we remember them more, yeah. But nature does end up tapping you on the shoulder and going, they're not really your family. They are, but, you know, you don't see your face in their face. They don't look like you. You know, nature just reminds you, you're not a mule. You're a donkey. Okay? I don't know what that means. But anyway, so yesterday, my thing went as this, you know, 17 siblings, remember, but I got 2 Christmas messages. And of course, I can't blame this because I only sent out 3. You know, I sent out Merry Christmas to my Offspring, who, for you new people, you got to know that I didn't raise her. She was adopted as a child because the first time I ever did the thing that people do to create backup copies of themselves, she was created the very first time. So her mother and I got married for 2 weeks. It was a sham wedding. I recently saw for the first time the video of this sham wedding. It's just so pathetic. It's in my backyard. It's just amazing to watch me sitting there listening to her brother as the preacher lecturing us about what it is to be married when I'm sitting there thinking, buddy, you have no idea. This isn't going to last a year, let alone, you know, and it didn't. It lasted 2 weeks. It was an absolute crime that we kept the gifts, you know. But so anyway, she was adopted to another family. We made connection When she turned 18, things were really great, really rosy, really super great. She moved to San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. I assumed she'd be like me. I was hanging out with a bad crowd at the time, and the bad crowd pounced upon her, and it was horrific. That's when the big change in my life was watching the dark people in my life pouncing upon my own offspring. That's when the big wake-up call was. That's when I stopped doing the nude photography. That's when I stopped. That's kind of when I just went, no, I don't want anything to do with this popularity contest of a life known as celebrity or anything. Anyway, it's not all a dark story. We're still, when we do chat, it's all positive. But look, things are screwed up. I understand that. If you give your child up for adoption, bringing it back around to this Rob Reiner thing, if your kid kills you, it's probably your fault. Now, my offspring is probably never going to kill me. I'm pretty sure she won't kill me. She's not that type of person. But if you give your child up for adoption and somebody else raises them, you don't know. That's a crapshoot. You can research the best you can, and I did, and I think her family seems like wonderful people, really nice people. So I'm just using an alternate universe kind of scenario here. But let's say things went really horrific in that way and she came back and killed me. I would say, hey, yeah, my fault. My fault. This is not permission for anybody to come kill me. But anyway, I sent her a text message, Merry Christmas, couple gifts, and she didn't respond. And that's not a surprise. I'll get a text in a couple days and she'll say, I'm really bad at this and sorry and catch up soon. And the whole song, that song. What's that song? I'm gonna be just like you, Dad. Someday I'm gonna be just like you. What's that song? Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. Yeah. That sad song from the 60s. That song made me so sad when I was a kid. And here I am quoting it in relation to my own kid. So that was one message. It didn't go. That was didn't get returned. My sister surprised me with an Instacart delivery of a ham. I told you about that. That was great. She also gave me boxes of Ziplocs. And now I have enough Ziploc baggies to last me probably the rest of my life. That was kind of in keeping with the... I told her, I said, this is kind of like a dad-worthy joke gift. She goes, but it's not a joke. I use these things. And I knew if you're going to have a big ham, you'd need to put them in compartments. So you put them in separate plastic bags, and then you put them in the freezer, and you only take one out at a time. Very practical and thoughtful. So that was from my one true blood sister. Out of 17, she's the one, same mom, same dad. And that's kind of like what I'm talking about. It narrows down. It narrows down, And then my youngest brother, who I'd never lived under the same roof, I was out of the house before he was married. In fact, I was looking at that wedding video, and there's a little picture of him. Remember I told you that it's really weird when your parents had to be in the same place? Well, I was kind of referencing that backyard wedding where my dad and his wife, my second stepmom, were at my wedding, the sham wedding in the backyard. And there's my little brother. My dad's holding him and bouncing. He was just a baby, like probably a year and a half old, something like that. Small enough to be held by an old man with gray hair. My dad was one of those old dads that pumped out kids in his 50s, And I exchanged messages with him. He's a cool guy. I really get along with him. And then I went to a little Christmas get-together at my friend's house who lives around the corner, who I've known for about 25 years, one of the first friends that I had in San Francisco. Yesterday, I mentioned it was one of my lesbian friends, and I kind of regret having done that because I've been on this channel preaching that we need to I want everybody to get back in the fucking closet, you know? It's just like, I hate this pride flag stuff. I hate it all. It's San Francisco. It's dark. Just this constant obsession with sexuality, your genitals. This is what has poisoned our schools. This is what is poisoning children. This is why people are chopping off their dicks. This is why people are saying I'm a fucking furry. It's just this obsession, you know? And so the fact that I said my lesbian friend yesterday, I was thinking about that after, and I thought, why the fuck did I say that? Why don't I take my own fucking advice? She's my friend, you know? She's my friend. We've been friends for 25 years. And anyway, I went over to her house, and this is what's weird, okay? This is what I don't understand. I'm getting back into this thing, you know? Go back to the backyard wedding of mine. My dad has to be there with his wife. My mom's there with her husband, my second stepdad. All these neighbors, by the way, the parents of Christopher Robin Miller were there. Christopher, I didn't see him. He might have been off to college or something like that. Probably was. I would have been the right age. Christopher Robin Miller, the guy that I saw in the Rob Reiner movie, being Charlie, that brought the whole thing home. You know, the Kids Incorporated thing. He was in, and by the way, I want an update on that. He was cast as one of the kids in the original pilot. And the original pilot, by the way, I found out, was a KTEL home video release. Stacey Fergie from Black Eyed Peas was in it. That's the one that I might have been in had I been a year younger, you know, and not too tall and not with a little wispy mustache. Anyway, so his parents were there, and Robin and Louise Miller, they were there. But the awkwardness of having the split apart family together. Well, anyway, I go to Christmas over at my friend's house, and I don't know how lesbians do it. I think they might be different. Maybe just my lesbian friends are different, but two of her ex-girlfriends were there. Long-term girlfriends. I'm still good friends with the original girlfriend who lives in New York. And her current, a woman she's dating, was there. And her parents and me. And the kid that she shares parenting duties with her most recent girlfriend, or whatever you call it, significant other. They lived together for 5 years. They decided, or anyway, I'm not putting her on blast, but I'm just trying to say, the weird thing about that is I sat there talking to her dad, who just turned 80, and her mom, who's like maybe 5 years younger than that. We were talking about how we met so long ago, and I was trying to figure out, you know, when did we meet? I mean, you're 80, you just turned 80, and we met, how long? You were actually younger than I am now when we first met here in San Francisco, and we were just kind of doing the old mind-boggling how time flies and everything like that. But, you know, we were talking because this lesbian friend and I, we met because I interviewed this band. When I lived in Salt Lake City, I interviewed a band named 7 Year Bitch. And the bass player and I just got along really well, Elizabeth. We just kind of hit it off for whatever reason. Same kind of sense of humor. We were both dropping out of religion. I had just recently dropped out of Mormonism. She just dropped out of Seventh-day Adventism. Is that how you say that? And so we just kind of were trading irreverence, you know, irreverent jabs. You know, I remember she told me, she said, Jesus loves you most, but Satan loves you best. And it was just kind of a throwaway joke, Like, ha ha ha, yeah, we don't need to be religious anymore. We're gonna be rock and roll. We're atheists now. But when I moved to San Francisco, she happened to live right around the corner from me, like literally right around the corner. So she became my first non-Utah connected friend in San Francisco. And she started a band called Clone. And I made friends with them. And then while we were friends with them, they added a keyboard player and a drummer. And they were lesbians. And I made friends with them immediately. We just, again, hit it off. Same sense of humor, just having fun. And I've stayed friends with them over the years. It's been a lasting, fruitful, low maintenance friendship where, you're not talking weekly, you're not hanging out weekly, but 2 or 3 times a year you get together and it feels like old times and it feels familiar, it feels like family. So that was my Christmas with them. And I was just sitting there pondering, just trying to be a good Christmas guest, which is being on my best behavior and trying to avoid politics, even though one of the reasons why she claims she really loves me is I'm one of the only honest people in San Francisco who doesn't fall for the bullshit. And I take that as a high compliment because, look, I'm perfectly willing to be canceled for just reporting reality as it is. And it's nice that she appreciates that because everybody else in San Francisco has gotten the fuck away from me, like canceled completely. When I started defending Donald Trump and Republicans in 2016 openly, I've been walking on eggshells the whole time I've been here, right? Just kind of like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. But in 2016-ish, and before that, I've always been out of the closet. If you look at my old blog, I'm writing all this shit out. I'm making fun of wokeism long before the term woke was even there. But I'm doing it with more of a libertarian kind of one foot in the liberal party and one foot in conservatism because I'm taking pictures of naked ladies. I'm doing all these kinds of things that are obviously not typical Republican things, or right-wing things, because I wasn't right-wing. I was, kind of oversteering my exit from Mormonism and going the other direction, And this isn't going to make any sense, but a lot of the reasons why I was hanging out with such a bad crowd is because I still had Savior complex in me. I still had that. Jesus walked through Samaria, A lot of the reasons why I went bad was to prove that you could be bad and be good at the same time. Now that's kind of fucked up, right? But you can hang out and do these things and you're still a good person. I don't know. I don't want to get into that totally, but because I want to stay on topic with how Christmas went. Anyway, so we had a nice little Christmas. The little daughter was there, but I'm predicting, she's only got genetic components from one mom, not from the other one. As time goes on. Anyway, my experience is just that will become meaningful later. And I don't want to throw shade on adopted people at all. I'm sure there are a lot of adopted people that have very resonant and deep relationships with their adopted families. And I'm sure there are many examples out there of step families that bond and make the union, and it becomes this magical, wonderful thing. And I have a few step brothers and sisters with whom, I share fond memories, One particular one a couple of days ago sent me a message that said, hey, come to Christmas or whatever. So, great guy. Anyway, just complicated stuff. But, and then I came home, I only had one drink because I'm old now. And I just realized that more than one drink, it's just like, even with one drink, the headache starts to come. And I'm thinking, I do not need a hangover. I don't want to have a hangover. So I just had the one drink and one Jell-O shot. Her mom is holding onto the tradition of making Jello shots. I don't think anybody even had Jello shots. I think everybody's getting old. It's just like nobody was really drinking. Anyway, but I come home and settle in, and I turn on the TV. YouTube comes up on Roku, and the first thing comes up is All in the Family. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of perfect, isn't it? You know, I get this new audience because of Rob Reiner talking about Meathead and All in the Family, and YouTube's algorithms are kind of zeroing in on things these days. And so I thought it was a pilot episode, and I thought, okay, I'll watch this. And I watch it, you know? And right from the get-go, it's Meathead, Rob Reiner. He's already in it. The first scene are him and Gloria setting up a anniversary party for Edith and Archie, you know. And there's hanky-panky going on, new couple, and he wants sex, and she's like, we can't, because Dad's going to be home, and Michael, stop it, no. He's insistent with his weird posture and bearing down on her. Come on, let's just do it. Kind of stuff that would make you, in current political climate, would be forbidden, you know. Anyway, I don't want to go over the whole episode. You can watch it, look it up. But what struck me is that, and we know this, and we've talked about this before, Norman Lear, a proud member of the tribe, made that show to make Archie look like the buffoon. It's really the first production TV series to do that. Of course, now we know it's the norm. The norm is white dad is a buffoon. White dad is a buffoon. He's conservative. He's a buffoon. He's stupid. Well, this was the first one. This was groundbreaking. And I'm watching this. And of course, the rumor is that they were really surprised that Archie became loved. And I, even as a kid, we watched this show. And you would think it would be a show that my mom would, she would prefer that we watch Little House on the Prairie and The Waltons and that kind of stuff, wholesome TV, you know. But once she was married to my stepdad, we saw All in the Family, and we would see these, and we'd just kind of laugh because my stepdad was kind of had Archie Bunker qualities. I think everybody just kind of, America went, that's kind of like my dad, cool. And Archie became the hero, you know. And I think they were surprised by that because he was obviously cast to be the racist, bigot, phobic buffoon, you know? And that's what this whole episode was, you know, right out of the gate. It's not like it morphed into that. That was the intent of the show, to take Archie Bunker, a middle-class, white, conservative, Catholic guy, and turn him into the buffoon, you know? And it's amazing that we accepted that. It's amazing that we did the flip, that America did the flip. And we said, no, actually, we like him. So fuck you, keep making it. We like him. That would seem like a tale of resiliency, or a tale of God stepping in going, yeah, it's not that easy. You don't just get away with that easy. Look how this happens, you know? It's kind of like, you know, how rats build up resistance to certain kind of poisons, and at a certain point when you're pointing the poison out, it's just a meal for them. It doesn't kill them anymore. Just like, thanks. You know? Got any more? This doesn't affect me. It's delicious. 2 more to go, please. But, you know, rewind a couple days ago when I'm watching the Rob Reiner Roast 2000 with all the kind of gross innuendo about pedophilia and all that other kind of stuff. I think I'm not supposed to mention that for algorithms, but I don't really care. I'm just going to keep continuing like I'm making these recordings for myself and posterity. But I noticed that the roast was just like all Jewish people. It was like all Jewish people. And back then, I didn't know the difference between a white person and a Jewish person. I don't think the world did. I think the Jewish people successfully passed themselves off as white people, and we just thought white people are white people. And when we thought of a Jewish person, we were really thinking of a guy wearing a little funny hat, you know, not just white guys that were on TV. Billy Crystal, Richard Dreyfuss, all the cast of characters. But on that dais, on that roast, it became painfully clear, and there was kind of a passive-aggressive slight against the Goyim, too, because the only people who weren't Jewish, it was like 80% Jewish, the Friars Club roast, and Michael Spinks, the brother of a boxer. I don't know what he's famous for other than being the brother of Leon Spinks. I guess he was a boxer, too. I know Leon was, because like I said before, I hung his poster up on my locker in junior high just to be a rebel because everybody else was all about Muhammad Ali. Anyway, Vanilla Ice, another clown, Rhett Butler, a clown, and Patty Hearst. It's just like you feel like there was a meeting that says, okay, we got to have some goy on here. Let's pick the most ridiculous goy we possibly can. Okay, here's a list. These idiots, they don't even know. Fucking dumbasses. You can see that. And now, looking back with clearer vision, now that the controls have been lifted off, where you don't get shut down the minute you notice, before, if you noticed something, you didn't have anywhere to say it. And if you did, you were just anti-Semite, you're banned to 4chan, or a Stormfront or some other thing where the only place you can report reality is some dark corner of the internet. But now with X allowing the discussion, people can just go, what the fuck? What the fuck? How does this one little tribe, a nation within our nation that has no loyalties to our nation, get away with coming in and making these programs that are obviously, in hindsight, designed to diminish and demoralize the host tribe? Americans, regular white guys. Try to transport that phenomenon to anywhere else. What if you had a couple of white American Christians that moved to Japan and they make a hit TV show where the Japanese father is the worst guy in the world, but every time there's a white character, they're seen as benevolent or funny or smart? Would that fly? It certainly would be obvious. Everybody would go, wait, what's going on here? We got a room full of white guys making a show about how Japanese people suck and they're stupid and they're buffoons. Anybody else have a problem with this? But for whatever reason, America was like, it's fine. They all changed their names to sound American anyway, so that's part of the problem. I don't know, but I mean, this is what I'm thinking as I'm watching this this episode. And I get on and I start talking to Grok and I start going through Norman Lear's whole catalog. And it's one thing after another. Right after All in the Family was Maude. And it was all feminist, pure feminist Maude. First thing, a couple episodes into the first season, she has an abortion in the face. And the guy that's objecting is, again, another white Protestant Catholic or whatever guy. He's a buffoon, How dare you question abortion? It's a heroic thing. It's hard for Maude, but, And then it's just show after show. I went through his whole catalog. I'm going to forget about some of them right here. But One Day at a Time, same thing. Schneider, this lecherous white guy. He's the janitor. He always looks stupid, Another feminist show. Good Times, all black cast. But every single episode was this a fight against racism. And so anytime there was a white American in there, they were the racist, they were the landlord, they were the cop, they were the person giving the black family a hard time. It's the same formula, every single one of his shows, But then I came across this show that he did, apparently a reboot in maybe even past the 2000s, that was 407 Hauser Street. And I didn't know about this. I don't think anybody knew about this, but Norman Lear tried to reboot his career by making this 407 Hauser Street. And what was it? Well, a black family moves into Archie Bunker's old house. So kind of a clever spin when you think about it. You think, okay, let's use the same house, redecorate it, but it's a black family that moves in. And the dad is the Archie Bunker, but he's a Nation of Islam kind of guy, Malcolm X, that kind of liberal. But his son, instead of having meathead who's a liberal, his black son is conservative. He's a conservative Republican. So his son becomes the buffoon, and but anyway, you can see why. I'm just going, okay, wow. And I put on episodes. You can look it up on YouTube. Somebody has put the whole 6 episodes. There's only 6 episodes, and then it got canceled on TV. But guess what? The hero of that series is the black conservative's girlfriend, who is a Jewish woman, right? And so the whole opening scene is kind of just like the opening of All in the Family, but this time, instead of Meathead and Gloria making out, it's this Jewish lady and a black guy making out, intentionally done to make people uncomfortable, like, haha, see, you don't like that, ugh, But if you watch it, it's so over the top, just completely obvious what he's trying to do. Because you look at all the 70s stuff and he's placating black people and anybody that's not white, just making victims out of them, and any problem that you have, it's the white man's problem, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. But by the time the 2000s come around, you have Louis Farrakhan, who pokes his head into the picture, and he's gaining traction, And what is he? He's a black guy criticizing Jews. So Norman, smart little guy, he thinks, I can deal with that. So he makes the Nation of Islam buffoon. Just like, I need to get this message out. Anyway, I'm kind of dancing around the subject, but what was occurring to me last night, watching this All in the Family thing, and the phenomenon that it was obviously made to diminish and mock white conservative men, and women to a certain extent. Edith was she was more sympathetic because she was a woman, they put her in a subservient role where her evil is just kind of the evil that rubs off of Archie, well-meaning, dumb, ditzy white lady. perfect liberal, useful liberal white lady. But what was interesting is, it's not that they didn't portray Archie in a realistic way, because we all know an Archie, and that's why we loved Archie, is because we all kind of know him. But the way that they used the psychological operation that ended up still working, was the fact that he was always isolated. He was always isolated as the buffoon. Everybody around him was in opposition to him. You never see Archie with his other white dude friends getting along, laughing, doing good things at work. It was always, no, whatever Archie does, it's bad. Stretch Cunningham sucks. All of his friends suck. And you never get to see them. You always see Archie just isolated, the only representative of his kind, and everybody in opposition to him, including his daughter, including his son-in-law, including his neighbors, right? That's, I think, the psychological thing that stuck with most of us, with me, with my years of preaching radical individualism and preaching hardcore against tribalism, is that individualism, that sense that we're like, I'm an individual. What it really is, I think I can argue this, is that that's an attempt to say, not me, I'm not like that. Don't judge me based on him. I'm an individual. You know? That's the response to it. Because we don't want to just go, hey, fuck you, Archie Bunker's great. You know? And we might have, if Archie was always surrounded by people that agreed with him. But the psychological fuckery that's going on is to say, if you're like that, everyone around you is against you. And that's what it went for season after season after season of all of his shows. If you were white, if you were straight, if you were conservative, you were the isolated, bad character. You know? And of course, Norm. And these were, again, I did the research, but the writers' rooms were like 80% Jewish. Right? And I know this kind of probably bums some of you out because tribalism never sounds fun. And it also never fun to say, oh, another person blaming the Jews. Let's not get into that. Let's just look at reality. That's real. It's real. That's a population that's 2% of our population. But yet 80% of the effort. And then what is the product? The product is meant to harm white conservatives, to isolate them, to mock them. None of the episodes were to isolate a Jewish person and to mock them. Not until the 2000s, where we get 407 Hauser Street, do we see Norman Lear isolating somebody from a different race to mock them. But it was only because it was Nation of Islam type stuff. You know, once black people organized to say, hey, we're noticing a pattern with Jews, that's when Norman Lear went, ha, fuck you. All I've done for you, and this is how you repay me. 407 Hauser. I'm going to have another hit. I'm going to take you out. Didn't work. Why? Not enough black people. Not enough black people. You know? There's just not enough black people to sustain a show like that. You know? And maybe black people just don't appreciate being mocked the same way that white people do. I don't know why white people like that. Why do we like that? Why do we like this punishment? Why do we take it? You know, somebody can just come up to us and mock us in our face, mock our values. And, you know, the Mormons, it's a perfect example. Trey Parker and Matt Storm make the Book of Mormon on, you know, just totally mocking Mormons. And what does the Mormon church do? They take out an ad in the back of the pamphlet. For whatever reason, white people are very resilient. We're just like, okay, fine, mock us. I don't care. Call us whatever name you want to. Call us cracker, whatever. It's fine. We can take it. Ha, ha, ha. We'll even populate the front row of your... We'll buy the tickets. You know, we'll get the VIP tickets. I don't know what that is. But I think it's a result of this programming. You know? Because when you go back, Sherwood Schwartz, Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, all those other kind of wholesome, not political things, those were all white writing rooms. Jews weren't involved. Leave It to Beaver, no Jews involved. Ozzie and Harriet, no Jews involved. You know? And as soon as the Jews get involved, it gets political and divisive and anti-white and feminist. And the ist, this racist, all these ists get in there. No more just stories about family. The one exception, I have to be fair, is that a lot of Jews involved with Andy Griffith, which was totally wholesome. I need to do a rewatch with my new, fresh 2025 eyes. I think I'm going to find subversive elements in there. It almost feels like, at this point, if you get too many of the chosen tribe in the room, there's going to be subversive elements about it no matter what. You know, prove me wrong, whatever. Research sucks. Grok is a confirmation bias engine. I get that. But The reality is that these writing rooms and these shows existed, and they did permeate culture. They affected it. They didn't just affect Jewish run shows. You know, you don't have The Simpsons without All in the Family. You don't have Homer as the buffoon, the buffoonish patriarch. You know, that starts with All in the Family. It starts there, and it just balloons from there to every one of them. American Dad, Family Guy. Is there Malcolm in the Middle? Is there even a show out there that has a white dad that's a good guy and a nice guy, as a hero? I don't think there is one. It's just a standard thing. If you want to get on TV with your sitcom, the white dad's got to be a buffoon. He's got to be backwards. He's got to be a hick, and we got to isolate him. And everybody's got to be against him. It's got to be eye roll after eye roll. Every time Dad opens his mouth, everybody rolls their eyes. It's like a self-sustaining thing now. The Jews don't even have to be involved. They successfully created the model that everybody else follows. And like dummies, we do. We just go, okay, yeah, it's totally cool. We don't have a problem with you coming into and poisoning our children, poisoning our minds, deflating us, diminishing our self-worth. We'll take it. You know? I'm not trying to blame. I'm not blaming the Jews, because in a chess move kind of way, there's a certain kind of hat tip respect you got to give to somebody. But my question is, why did you really have to do that? Do you really have to do that? You know, in my newfound tribalism, the way I look at it is like, we can be separate and get along. We can respect that we're different. You can have your votes for your areas and your communities. We can run our things the way we want to run them. You can run your things the way you want to run them, you know? But do we really need to sneak into the other tribes and poison their minds? Does that have to be part of it? You know? Preemptive bullshit? You know, it's like, if you got a small tribe, I get it, maybe the competition for resource, but you're not even trying to grow. So do you really have to do population control kind of theatrics and underhanded subversive shit? Can't you just be on the level? Can't you just do your own things, promote your own causes? Can't you? Wouldn't it be fine to just, okay, you own Hollywood, so you cast a bunch of Jews and you just talk about Jewish shit and you go, hey, we're great, we're the Jews, check us out, we have funny beards, we have funny sideburns, look at our funny fur hats, they're big and tall and square, but we also have a tiny little hat too, we have in case you don't want to wear the big funny fucking fur square one. Can't you just do that? Do you have to sneak in and make a product poison for the other tribe? Do you have to make a poisonous pill? Do you have to poison our water supply? Can you just leave us alone? Is that an option? You know, can we get along? Can't we just all get along? Anyway, that was how the end of my Christmas went. I fell asleep watching the videos of 407 Hauser, 457. I don't know. So whatever it was, I don't know. I'll put it in the comments. You can find it. But yeah, all in the family. It is sad that there are any people in the world, any people at all, Norman, Lear, his friends, the writer's room, any people, any executive at all, any feminist, any person in the world that would decide that we want to make some art, we want to make a product, we want to make some propaganda that will weaken and destroy families. We want to destroy fathers. We want to destroy fatherhood. We want to make it into an embarrassing proposition. We need to destroy. Can you imagine? I think of that and I just think, how and why do these people exist? And why? And then fast forward to 2025. And I'm going to say that Rob Reiner might be a little bit of a sacrificial lamb here. You know, Rob Reiner is the child of Carl Reiner. You know, Rob Reiner didn't create All in the Family. Norman Lear did. Older people that should have been taking care of Rob Reiner, were actually putting him into this machine, this destructive thing, this war. They put him in as a soldier in this war, you know? And he ended up getting murdered by his child. That patriarch, the one at the center of the beginning of the charge against patriarchy, of white patriarchy, that guy, that main villain, ended up murdered by his son, by his meathead. Not just criticized, not just belittled, hacked to death, stabbed, left to bleed out in his family home. What's that address, Norman? What's the address where he bled out? You want to do a sitcom? I got an address for you. 407 Hauser ain't shit, motherfucker. Let's see your new sitcom now. He's dead. He doesn't get to see this. He doesn't get to see the result of his work. The result of his deeds, God, whoever, shielded him from that. Norman Lear is dead. He doesn't get to ponder 407 Hauser and whatever Rob Reiner's address is. That's the final episode of Norman Lear's work. That's the season finale, bitch. I'm sorry. I don't need to go dark, but you don't get away with shit, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. That's my new kick. That's my kick. God is reality. Reality has consequences. You know? And if you're going to get into that dirty shit, if you're going to get in the muck and you're going to be subversive and you're going to try to destroy people, if that's going to be your mission, is to just take these conservative white men and destroy them, destroy their families, when it comes back and bites you in the ass, you don't get to act shocked. You just bleed out. Anyway. Happy holidays. Sorry about that. There's some clarity coming, you know? When you get clarity, you gotta keep it. This is what... There was so much clarity after the Charlie Kirk thing. We saw the evil. We should have clarity now. Grab the clarity, keep it, you know? Don't forget it. God is smacking us over the head with reality right now. And I think we should be grateful. Now we just got to do something about it. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to total